Hi, I'm Ruth Bartolo, registered dietitian with LivWell Community Health Services. Today we're going to talk a little bit about whole grains, how you can incorporate them into your diet, and also talk about different ways they have healthful benefits for you and your health, and then talk about a different recipe I have prepared for us today. We're going to do a little demonstration about an enchilada rice. Whole grains are really important. Whole grains mean that the entire grain is consumed with the outer casing. Why that's important is because that outer casing has a lot of fiber, which is good for our health, and it also contains a lot of nutrients. That's where the B vitamins are contained within our food naturally. Instead of consuming things like white rice, refined grains, we can have these whole grains to help increase that fiber content. Fiber content is really important for patients that are diabetic, anyone that might have some sort of GI ailment, whether that happens to be a little bit of constipation or just in general needing better gut health. And it's also helpful for patients that have high cholesterol. When we have high cholesterol, if we increase our fiber content, we're able to kind of help decrease some of our other cholesterol values by also kind of in combination with other therapies and other things we eat, reducing our fat intake. So this recipe we're going to prepare today, the enchilada rice, is actually a really good one for low cholesterol. We'll be using a lean meat and then of course featuring brown rice today. One of the really important things about cooking rice from scratch and not using like a minute prepared rice or anything like that is making sure we're doing really good preparations. One of the most important things, and most of your instructions on your packaging will tell you, is to make sure you're rinsing your rice thoroughly. And this is one of those things that if you skip this step, you're really gonna notice a difference in your rice. When we're rinsing it, what we're doing, we're not only removing any dirt or debris from when they pick it from the fields, from especially rice, we're also reducing the starch content on the outside of that grain. Just from the processing of it, some of that starch gets everywhere and it makes our rice really sticky. And then when we start to cook rice from scratch, you might say, I cook rice and it doesn't turn out right. It's always stuck to the pan in a mess. By rinsing it thoroughly, that's one of your best ways to start out to have great rice every time. One of the most important tools is a colander like this. I really like the mesh ones because it's not, the holes in it are very small, and none of the rice particles or rice grains are going to slip between. So make sure that you pour your rice in here when it's measured out and then run it under cool water. You'll just need to run it under water until the water coming throughout the colander is clear in color. That's how you know you've removed most of that starch content. To get started with our enchilada rice today, we're gonna go ahead and brown our meat, and we're gonna use some chopped onions. I have just about a half onion here. We're gonna put in our skillet that's preheated. I didn't add any extra fat to our skillet because we're gonna put these onions in and we're gonna immediately add our meat. So you can hear that cooking now. We'll kind of stir it around to help get that nice caramelization. And once you can see some of those onions are starting to turn colors and brown, we can go ahead and add our meat. Today I'm choosing a lean ground turkey. It is 85% lean and 15% fat. So typically when we look for a lean meat, that first number we want it to be as high as our budget can afford because that's the lean number. So this is just a prepared ground turkey. We'll add it to our skillet now. So while our meat is finishing up, we'll go ahead and get our other ingredients ready. I have 1 can of no salt added corn in here. If you're diabetic and really watching your carb content, you could substitute this for something else, like a can of no salt added tomatoes, a can of rotel would go really well in here, or even some sauteed bell peppers would be a really good substitution. We're gonna go ahead and add the star here. We're gonna add our brown rice. We're gonna add 2 cups cooked. So the key to cooking rice well, like I said, is making sure that it's well drained. And you also wanna take the lid and leave it on and actually let it do its cooking. That's one of the big keys about having rice. When you're checking on it often, it starts to dry out, the water content gets a little off. Just trust your gut that it's at the right temperature and leave it be. Just let it simmer for at least 16 to 20 minutes, usually depending on how much rice you're cooking, and then check on it. At that time, you can readjust, stir, make sure it's not sticking to your pan and all of that. So we have 1 can of corn, and 2 cups of brown rice. To that, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna add 1 tablespoon of cumin. It's that lovely Southwest taste to it. And then we're gonna add 1 can of enchilada sauce. Now, just for sake of ease today, this is just regular enchilada sauce from the store. If you're really watching your sodium content, you can make homemade. Homemade enchilada sauce is actually super simple to make. It doesn't take a lot of effort. It's just a few seasonings from your pantry, quite a bit of chili powder, and some either chicken or vegetable broth, so super simple. So we'll get this nice and well incorporated, and then we'll go ahead and add it to our skillet. In our skillet, we can see that our turkey has browned up very nicely with the onions. You will notice with your leaner meats that the crumble of a meat is a lot bigger, which is fine just because that fat content's not there to break it up. So you can have to actually work a little harder to get those pieces a little smaller, or if you prefer a heartier dish, it actually works out really well. So since our meat is cooked thoroughly, we're ready to add our mixture here. And all we're doing now is we're just heating this through. Everything's already cooked and ready to go. We're just making sure that that meat mixture and that rice mixture are well incorporated. And then enchiladas wouldn't be enchiladas with, of course, our favorite topping, cheese. So I have just a 1/4 cup of shredded cheese here. You can choose any variety that you like. I think this is Colby Jack, just because that's what I had available. And notice that a 1/2 cup, it doesn't seem like a lot of cheese, but it's plenty enough to cover our skillet toppings and then some. And you're just gonna let this heat just so that cheese melts. And then when you're through, you can top it however you'd like. We're gonna go ahead and add a little bit of cilantro for a green color. And then today we happen to have some cherry tomatoes from our garden we'll go ahead and top it with as well. And that's it. Super simple, whole grain enchilada rice. Very simple. You can swap out any of the ingredients if you have different dietary needs. But hopefully we showed you some good ideas to incorporate some more whole grains to your diet. Thank you.